From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive, recorded live Saturday, 23 March 2013, episode 60. It's never the same dive twice. Well, welcome once again to another episode of Two Guys Who Dive with your venerable host, Rob Wade, and I'm here with...
Robert Garza.
Robert Garza. It's like a slow motion. It's like, this is a frenetic guy, and I'm sleepy guy.
Actually, I was about to comment on your intro. It's always so...
lively, all over the place. What can I say? I'm a
Saturday.
That's right. You know, I'm going to throw up on the microphone. So
I gotta get that voice down. You know, I just got to.
You know, you got to find your own. You know, and it'll be there. It'll happen. It'll just suddenly come out, and then it's Bobby Flamingo.
There you go. You know what it is. The only time I get to hear myself, actually talking,
is here.
It's here. You know, I gotta get a microphone going there at the house and just kind of listens and practice talking, so I can get that that announcer voice down.
It's important to know how to talk. Yeah. Some people practice talking when you don't want them to practice.
Yes,
talking,
exactly.
I hate it. It's like, okay, you have this really nasty habit. What's that? Breathing. So, how was your week?
Good. Actually, it was very eventful.
Eventful, eventful in a way that you can share. Because I know some of the stuff you're like, I could tell you, but then I have to kill you, and then I have to burn the tapes and and destroy the computer.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, in this one, I cannot. But it was just, it was an eventful. I will tell you this though. We had an alarm Friday.
I heard about that. We were getting phone calls and Twitter feed inputs that there was a fire.
There was a fire.
There really was one. I thought maybe some kid decided, you know what? It's nice outside. Don't want to do the schoolwork thing. Yeah. Ring.
No. This one actually was real, and
started in the boys' room, didn't it?
No, actually, it started there was an issue with an air conditioner, and it apparently was I don't know if it was a district issue or an AEP issue, but somehow, some way, they were working down the street, AEP on a transformer. Yeah. They did something to it that actually lowered the wattage to the school. And what happened was something with the air conditioners that it lowered the wattage to the school, so the lights dimmed. But
dim all the lights, sweet darling.
Yeah. So then, but the air conditioner, the ampage on the air conditioner engines went up and caused them to overheat and burn out.
Oh, because they weren't getting enough juice.
Exactly.
Wow.
So most of them they shut off, except one of them. One of them kept going and sparked up. So there was smoke that started coming out of the actual air conditioning room, and one of the officers saw it and pulled the alarm, and the kids actually were running out of the building.
Okay, I have to ask this question because we practice this kind of stuff at the base all the time. Did everybody exit the way they're normally supposed to? For instance, through the appropriate exit and in a nice orderly fashion, or was it screaming and pandemonium?
It was pandemonium.
Love it. How often does the school practice?
Oh, we practice all the time, and usually they assume that it's always an alarm. But the thing was, when they actually saw smoke, it changes the it just changes the way you tend to handle situations.
That's right. Special guest appearance by Ronan. There we go.
But for the most part, the other wings thought it was a drill. So everybody exited the proper way. It was just in one area, which is where we were all at. So everybody handled themselves.
See, this
good.
is why I'm convinced that all these little practices and drills are useless unless you have a certain degree of realism and you don't tell people that you're doing it.
Right.
That the only people you should tell are the teachers or whatever. Say, we're going to do this, but we're going to introduce realism to it.
Yeah.
So that this scenario that you saw, the real reaction. Because the truth is, as you observed, when we go through a drill, we know it's a drill. Psychologically,
right,
we are geared way back. It's like, oh, okay, well, you know,
it's coming.
It's time for me to text my friends, or I'm going to take a chance to ditch out, or whatever. But when you see something like smoke or flames, suddenly all of that goes out the window.
Yeah, and it was just a handful of them. Most of them, like I said, did handle themselves accordingly. But once my biggest complaint, and this is something that we're gonna address, so I don't want to get too into it.
So it was a learning experience,
right? Luckily, the chief of police was there, and because he got called immediately because we told him this isn't this is
real.
This is real, and of course he came out of his office and showed up on site.
Yeah.
And my initial thing was, okay, since he's there, we had all the assistant principals running the show and everything. Well, the minute he walked in, I pretty much said, you're now the highest ranking person
here.
You're
the site commander.
You're in control. Yeah. And they were trying to tell him like what to do, and I was like, no, so I was joking with him, and I told him, you know what, just say the word so the kids can go home for the day, until we can get this situated.
Right.
And of course, there's the politics involved, and he was like, well, I can't do that, and I said, sure you can. But he could have, but there would have been explaining to do, of course, across the street to the administration.
Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah. But anyway, no one got hurt. We did witness, or he actually witnessed firsthand, you just got some really lazy teachers. And,
we see the same thing on the Air Force Base.
They were so lax, and when they found out that it really wasn't a drill,
right?
They didn't change, And he saw that, and I was very vocal about some things that I was having to deal with, and I just pretty much told them that if something had happened, I could have had complete deniability because it was not my responsibility.
Right.
Certain things,
right.
When you got over 2,000 students to 2 officers, that's a lot of
managing to do.
That's a lot of managing to do, and then especially in such a wide open area, when everybody else is just kicking back under a tree because it's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's just
there's a reason for the procedures. Those procedures are designed for maximum safety,
right,
to get there quickly, so that you don't have stragglers, where you don't have people that are, because of exactly what you were talking about, where people are kicking back under a tree. Well, there are things that can explode.
Yeah.
In a school, in a house, or whatever, and you don't know, as an average student, an average teacher, you don't necessarily know what the conditions are of the emergency. So it could be something as simple as a trash can fire, to something as dangerous as somebody has actually brought an incendiary device, and so it's just a matter of seconds or minutes before a serious explosion happens, and you're just kicking back by a tree that happens to be too close, when the rules were, the process was to go across the street or whatever your gathering locations are.
Right. This isn't like most buildings where it's an all-electric building or whatever.
Right.
We have labs there. There's gas.
Oh, yeah.
We have science classrooms.
The Bunsen burners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these things could easily get out of hand. Thank God nothing happened. The students actually acted great. They were well behaved. Of course, we had those that were bolting. They were running, and they left. They didn't come back. We didn't care about them. Unfortunately, you left, and there's only so much we can do.
Yeah, attendance will be taken.
But ultimately, my complaint was with, some of the educators that were there, they were just way too lax. The boss saw that. He thought it was BS. And he expressed his concerns with, the powers that be.
Right.
So they're going to have a meeting, and we're all going to get together and express some of the things that we saw and actually had to deal with during this crisis. And we need to fix it. I mean, that's it.
Absolutely. We go through similar exercises, practicing everything from explosive emergency, fire emergency, chemical, to hijacking, active shooter. We do all of that. And we actually have teams that spin up for the purposes of evaluating everybody in their performance of this. So, and then they come back and they do what they call a hot wash afterward that talks about how well everybody did. They look at, they have scores for how quickly did you respond. If average employees were asked about certain things, about what was going on, did they have appropriate answers, have appropriate responses? Was there the appropriate sense of urgency? Did you have, if there was a terrorist threat or something like that, did you have everything, all windows and everything closed off where they couldn't see you, kind of thing? Did you take all the appropriate actions? And then you're graded on that. The organizations are graded on that. And then they come back and they say, okay, the next time we schedule this, we're going to be looking, everything else ran well except the following things, and then they focus on those. And it's such things as, do you know where you're supposed to gather? If you're in this part of the building, when you walk into a building you don't normally go into,
right?
Is there something posted that's a fire evacuation plan, so that if there's an alarm that goes off, do you know where to gather? Most people in the base know where to gather if it's in their building, but and there is that typical lackadaisical approach to it. You see them kind of all out to the gathering place, but at least they're going out to the gathering place.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the only thing that I actually saw that really blew me away.
Chapped your hide.
Yeah, and but the administration on campus, the assistant AP, she handled herself extremely well. She was very calm.
Yeah.
I mean, she knew that it was a situation. We had the fire department there. Everybody showed up. So everything was great except when we got outside, because it was going to take a little while.
Yeah.
Until we got the okay from the firemen, the fire department, saying, okay, you guys can go ahead and bring everything in, everything's squared away. We shut down that particular unit. The other units seemed to be working fine. So before they let anybody in, they checked everything.
Exactly.
They started up the ACs again. No problems. It was just dealing with the situation outside with the kids that where we were complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the first one to start talking. I didn't care, because I've dealt with situations. I've dealt with crowd control. But in the times that I've done it, I've worked with professional people that can help.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a crowd like at a parade or something, I mean, I'm trained to do that.
Right.
This was a little different.
Yeah.
I was expecting, I guess that was my mistake, that I thought, okay, the teachers were going to be here, but one, they're not trained, and two, they're extremely lazy. So it was just problematic.
And this story anecdotally translates into diving as well. We take students through these 20 skill sets, and you're expected to not just pass the course knowing how to do these and having the instructor observe you doing them, look like you're fluent in doing them, but you're expected to go out afterward and continue practicing those things, and you've got to practice them in all the different environments that you'll be diving in.
All right.
Which is why it's so important to go out there and dive frequently, because shores of the world, exactly as this situation demonstrated, you will get to a point where something critical happens that you needed a skill that was taught in the basic course, and your seconds, even a minute, into the emergency before you realize, oh yeah, I remember what this is. Mm-hmm. I know how to disconnect my power inflator. These skill sets need to be practiced on a regular basis in the real environment.
Right.
And you plan it. You decide, okay, you know what, and work it out with your buddy. You know what, on this first dive, for the first couple minutes, I'd like to run through a few of my skill sets. When we get down, I want to go through some of those. I want you to help me out, observe, be my buddy.
Right.
That's the smart thing to do. So when the emergency happens, you're ready.
Right. You can't practice, your mask clearing enough.
Absolutely.
Cramp removals.
Right.
The ones that are very more common, especially if you don't exercise or do any kind of calisthenics or any kind of activity, you just, you're cruising and you just want to dive. Especially if you haven't done it in a while, like me, for example, I tend to have certain issues that I have to work out. The first dive, and then I'm right back in.
What issues? What issues?
I'm right back in the saddle. But
there you go.
But the thing is, Rob is right. You got to practice, and in anything that you do, especially in scuba diving, which is what we talk about. But you probably get at work, oh, we're doing this again. We're doing this. It's for a reason.
I actually like it when we have the accidental situations where something tripped the fire alarm, because there's usually we get the heads up if we're gonna be testing the alarm, blah blah blah, but when it happens accidentally, we're like, okay, and there is that couple of seconds while everybody's going around, is this real?
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. It's unannounced. It's happening. You get up and you go, and we don't have too many issues.
But these are just things that complacency, I guess. I guess that's the word.
That is exactly right. It's complacency.
But in the diving, when you're diving, and like anything else, if there's a fire, you get complacent. Somebody can get hurt real easy.
Oh yeah.
But in diving, you're underwater, so you're relying on your equipment to keep you going, and that's where you really gotta step it up a little bit.
You got to be ready with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've shared this, and I think a couple of times I've talked about this, about, when we're doing the night dive and I suffered, catastrophic issues. I didn't panic.
Right,
we didn't panic at all.
We just stepped right into the skills that we knew.
You talk about bad, out of air, bad cramp in the leg, couldn't get it out. Night dive. No lights.
Exactly.
No dive buddy paying attention. Trust me. I had it all happen at one time. Fatigued, exhausted, everything.
Yeah.
And at the end, I relaxed.
Yes. That's it. When when you can take that step back and go, okay, what's the most critical issue, and try and solve that. Well, the air issue is like, okay, can I solve it? Or is my buddy able to solve it? If your buddy's able to solve it, then boom, now you focus on the next most critical issue. Oh, another appearance by Ronan. Come here, you. The others get so jealous. All right. Crawl back there. So, all right. Well, real quickly, hitting some of the little bit of news going on. Well, it looks like the governor of Colorado did, in fact, sign the most constrictive attacks on the Second Amendment, including that useless magazine limits ban. And so I'm waiting to see where Magpul decides to move, because they, right up until the very hour, they were like, we're not kidding. We're already prepped to start pulling up our stakes. Yeah. Now, they obviously said it's not going to happen overnight, because they do have quite a good size number of employees and presence, and so they'd have to make all those preparations. But a number of states are like, come on down. Right. Texas is like, come on down. Governor Perry's like, come on. we need all that over here.
Yeah, we'll take you.
Yeah, no kidding. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. And I mean, all these gun companies they're all stepping into this. It's like 187 now gun companies that have said, you know what, if you don't want us there, if you don't want us selling what we sell the way we sell it, then we'll find someplace else.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell to you guys. We're not going to sell to your law enforcement. We're not going to sell to your states. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. Now, on a positive note, Harry Reid, as was kind of expected, decided, even though they're still pushing forward some sort of gun control legislation, he did refuse to put in the actual quote-unquote assault weapons ban.
Oh, okay.
That Feinstein, that Frankenstein was trying to put in there. But he said he will entertain having it introduced as an amendment, which of course it's going to die.
Yeah.
On the volume.
You know, the assault weapons, according to them, you know, like the videos that you've seen, when you hear the term assault rifle, you think, okay, it's a fully automatic. An assault rifle is a fully automatic weapon. Those cannot be legally owned by just anybody.
Right.
You know,
if you have one, you're grandfathered in, you have to be fully registered.
Right. You have to get a license to do it. You can do it, but it's going to take over a year of paperwork and a little bit of your cash. But yes, you can own it by obtaining a Class 3 license.
And a colorectal exam, too.
Right. By obtaining a Class 3 federal firearms license, you can get it. And you can carry it in your car as long as you have the license with you. But the problem with that is the ATF wants to know exactly where the weapon is, where you are at all the times and stuff like that. Not a big deal. If you're a law-abiding citizen, it's okay for you to do that. Nothing to hide. You just wanted to own a fully automatic assault weapon.
Yeah.
But the thing was, it was a style. That was the whole thing. It was just because it
style.
It looked military style. It was the same thing. You know, it was pathetic. I don't.
It's just crazy.
It was maybe back when they first did the Brady bill and they banned all these weapons. Maybe it was doable then. I don't think they're gonna go for it now.
No, it's not gonna pass.
Yeah,
but they may get the universal registration through. I'm worried about that because that's like the holy grail for the Democrats, because basically at that point they'll know everybody who has a weapon. And when that day comes when the government decides we need to clamp down on everybody for everything, they'll know exactly who and where to go after.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you see the story about the father who is an instructor? He's a concealed weapon and firearms instructor. He has trained his son how to properly handle weapons, etc. And there was a picture that somehow made it on the internet or something of his son, 10 or 11 years old, holding a AR-15.
Mm-hmm.
And so an accusation was made, and the cops suddenly showed up, and Child Protective Services or something like that showed up at his house. And, well, stupidly, he let them in. They didn't have a warrant, but he let them in. They were like, you know, they're showing him the picture. Basically, they were reading him the riot act, and so he called his lawyer and had his lawyer on speakerphone on his cell phone, so he could hear the whole exchange. He says, like, "I'm sorry, but you can't look at my weapons. Can we see where you store your weapons? No. Do you have a safe? Yes, I do. Can you open it for us? No, I won't." I mean, basically, he stood by his absolute rights.
Yep.
He has his firearms appropriately protected and locked down. But this was an example of the government trying to step in where it doesn't belong, under false pretenses, and they felt like they had every right to do that. And it's scary that it's getting to this, that basically they can practically bust into your house and demand to see, you know, all of your weapons.
Yeah, that ain't gonna fly here.
No,
you guys got to move to Texas.
No kidding. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. Interestingly, I saw something on the internet that it looks like, for you Windows 8 fans out there, that they're getting ready to roll a huge update. It's not the blue update that's been talked about, but it's a huge update for all the core apps, like the mail, the music, the stuff that's really core to the OS as far as the Metro side. And because there are a number of aspects of these core apps that even I would say were not ready for prime time.
Okay.
And I still use them so that I'm very conversant with how they work. And plus, that when they were updated, I would recognize when they're, what it looked like. Well, okay, what's the difference? Was this really an improvement, etc.? So, it looks like some people have noticed if you go into your control panel, and this is getting a little bit techie for people, if you go into the control panel and look at the event viewer, and then do a search in the system log for installation ready. Evidently, what you see is at some point during this month, you see a whole list of preloaded of the core apps. All of them are out there.
Wow.
Xbox Music, etc., are out there. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I looked on mine, and I don't see it on any of mine, but several people in the forums have said, oh, yeah, I see it in mine, I see it in mine. So I think it's something that's rolling out. So I'll be checking on that regularly, and I'll be anxious to see some updates to the core apps, because some of them really need some help. The mail one is a perfect example.
They didn't get it fixed right?
Well, it's just I could show you an example. It won't be beneficial for the folks out there, but I could kind of show you an example of what I'm talking about. If you go into the mail app on Windows 8, you can have your multiple boxes, which is fine. That works pretty swift. You can see I haven't caught up with a lot of my email. But there's a lot of house cleaning stuff that is not available on the app. I mean, you can right click and multi-select stuff, and you see the different options you have here, but not a lot else that you can do. Basically, you could delete them, but you can't do like a mass forward or something like that. So there's a lot of features that when I use the Outlook.com app, which I tend to use the web-based services anyway, that's very full-featured. The Outlook on there is almost as full-featured as having the Outlook.
Look itself.
The actual application from Office. So there are some things that need to be improved in the Windows app, the Windows 8 app. But all of them have different things that could be stepped up, and evidently there's a big role coming out. So I'm kind of excited to see that. The rumors were from like Mary Jo Foley, who is pretty close with a lot of the folks there. Yeah. She commented that there's a good chance that it'd roll this month. So cool. I'm really looking forward to that. That just puts icing on the cake for me. Let's see. So, title of the episode this week is It's Never the Same Dive Twice. And this is a reference to the environment that you dive in is always changing. And certainly at Lake Amistad, it's changing way more frequently than we're comfortable with. I went out today, and I'll be showing some video a little bit later. I went out today and did a dive, and the lake isn't any lower, but I ran into Jeff Larson, and he said that they're talking about letting another 12 to 15 feet out. I'm like, seriously? That means the small boat will be out of the water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It will be on dry land at that point. But, as a matter of fact, that may put the big boat very close to the surface. I didn't go out there. I went out to the abyss, which I'll show some video of.
Okay, cool.
So, and then, of course, there's an old saying that says, the same man never crosses the same river twice, which is, it's a philosophical statement, but it is true because you're always going through changes. Your body's going through changes as you get older. And so the way you dive may change over time, and then, of course, the environment you're diving in goes through changes. You have tides, you have seasons, you have increasing or decreasing populations of various animal life in the water, etc. There's so many things that change as a part of diving. So it's important to take those into consideration as a diver so that you are adapting your own diving profile, the equipment that you use, etc., along with the way you change. You know, you were talking about, getting fit for the new season, everything.
Right.
All of that changes your dive profile.
Yep.
Dominic, he's very concerned about his weight.
Mm-hmm.
Probably too much so, in my opinion. But the thing is, you need to make sure that your skills and your awareness and your gear is commensurate with that.
Right.
If you lose a ton of weight, obviously your wetsuit is potentially going to be too loose for you, and hence it's not going to function correctly.
Right. The whole thing about, for me, was diving is when I was first very active in diving, when I was doing the kind of helping you out with the internship and stuff like that. I mean, we were doing a lot of diving. And going up and down, carrying the gear and stuff. It got to the point to where it was really easy for me, but I started noticing that my diving was more enjoyable.
Right.
While, because I was, I felt at the time I was in better shape. I didn't get fatigued or tired as quick. Spending that much time in the water, it was just, so easy.
Yeah.
I felt like, it was just an everyday thing for me.
Absolutely.
But I did notice that, when that kind of changed because of situations.
Right.
Because of a personal situation that I had to deal with.
But still, all of that affects.
Yes.
You're a different person when you dive.
Right.
Yeah.
So I stopped diving as much, and the weight started kind of piling on, and the wetsuit started getting a little tighter than it should be.
Right.
I mean, it's supposed to be tight, but not not to where you're gonna pass out. Tight.
That's right.
But it just got to the point to where it was not as enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of said, okay, it's time. Well, and then also my doctor said it's time to flip the switch.
There we go. Yeah.
So, and it's all for all the good reason to do it. One, for health reasons. Two is because things just aren't getting any easier. Work is getting harder. You're working longer hours.
Oh yeah.
Kids, life, everything happens all at once. You need to stay in shape to try to enjoy it.
Exactly.
So that's my biggest thing, and then plus also because I'm gonna try to complete some training that I need to finish.
Yeah.
So it's gonna take not a lot, I don't think, of me, but it's gonna take some physical activity. Because Rob, he's not a slave driver when it comes
I am not, but I'm not slacker either.
No, when you train with Rob, you get trained, and that's the whole key there, is because it's important.
Yeah, it is.
If you're going from your basic, he's very thorough when it comes to the skill sets that you will and need to learn. And then, of course, as you start getting into your advanced certifications, the game changes because there's more task loading. Yeah. There's different things that you have to do. But it starts with your basics, and then you're adding more to that to get to where you need to go. So, of course, like anything else, as you're advancing, things are the skill sets that you're learning are a little more challenging.
That's right.
So, when you get to your rescue, trust me, you have to
You're in for a ride.
You have to be in shape. It can be done, when you're not in A+ fitness shaped or whatever. You can do it, but it's just it's more challenging.
That's right.
So I don't want to go through
that. No. So, okay, I was reading up some different bits of news and things this week, and ran across a little blurb on things that you can do to protect your favorite dive sites. We're concerned about, of course, obviously Lake Amistad, and to some degree we also are involved with taking care of San Felipe Creek here in Del Rio. And so, when we do the cleanups there, we're keenly aware of the kind of things and dangers that end up in our waterways.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as pronounced in the lake, or rather, it's not as obvious because we have breadth and depth. But as the lake level drops, some of this stuff
it's going to start coming
exposed.
out. Yeah.
But you know, of course, then and Tara and I have been to a number of saltwater locations, and thankfully most of those are set up as some sort of preserve.
You know, it's funny you bring that. I went walking with Brandon by the cliffs, and I posted some pictures. You know, some of the caves that were actually underwater some time back. But one thing that I started to see right there by the cliffs were all the bottles and cans that are now that were exposed. All of that was underwater.
Yeah.
I pulled out a can, and I had not seen that logo on that Coke can in years.
Yeah.
That thing must have been there for at least 10, 15 years. Yeah. It's still there. It doesn't dissolve, you know. It takes years to dissolve. But all the bottles, and we were walking, there was a lot of bottles there. They weren't broken, but there was a lot of them there. And I just
because they hit the water, and then
they just kind of float down. So I was telling Brandon, you know, be careful. Don't step there. There's a bottle. Watch it.
Right.
And that was horrible.
It is. It's horrible. And so as I was reading through a lot of the detail of this, it kind of breaks down into 5 categories of things you can do at the level of involvement that you want to get into. First thing they listed, which I thought was good, was less plastics. You know, I remember back in the day when we used to go to a grocery store and they would do the paper or plastic thing. Mm-hmm. Of course, I now, as a matter of fact, I hear rumors that rumors that some of these places are going to do get rid of. They're going to ban the plastic.
Oh wow!
And of course, you can't get paper anymore in some of these places. So I'm like, so what are they going to make everybody rent or whatever those you carry
those sacks?
I'm like, oh great, that's going to be just wonderful.
I've actually gone to Walmart and shopped, and I've seen people pull out those bags.
Really?
Yeah, they actually bring their own bags. They sell them right there as you're walking out, the Walmart bags.
Yeah,
they're those canvas kind of little bags. They sell them around on like $1.50 or something.
Yeah.
And I've seen actually people show up
carrying those.
Yeah, they pull them out and they say, okay, can you please put my groceries in here? And I thought that's cool, but they're showing up with their own bags.
Yeah.
I mean,
and of course, when Tara and I go shopping, we never know how much. I mean, we have our list, but we don't have a spatial concept of how much room that's going to take. So bringing our own bags is like, we could bring 50 bags and only need 5. Or bring 5 and need 20.
Yeah.
You know? So I've yet to find the process that really is efficient. Because I hate bringing more of anything than I need. And I hate showing up with less. But the big thing is, because the plastic bags are everywhere, and if you come by my house after a windstorm, you see them all against my fence. Okay? Which is annoying. But those end up in the lake. Because invariably, you'll be out there on a boat with people, and somebody's reaching in to pull out the sandwiches they bought at Walmart, and then, you know, they're cruising along, and, oh, wait, a wind or the breeze from cruising, and it took the bag, and they don't stop and go pick it up.
Right.
Well, not only is that nasty, it's also potentially hazardous to the aquatic life as well as birds as well. Mm-hmm. Another thing in the plastic arena that I'm very keen to is the little 6-pack plastic rings.
Oh yeah.
Anytime we typically buy the cartons anyway, but anytime we run into where we just get a bunch of 6-packs of something. What I do, as soon as I pull all the cans out, I cut those things into little pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, I make sure, because if you've ever seen any of the pictures, it just breaks my heart.
Like turtles and stuff? Yeah.
Turtles, birds that are stuck with those things. Mm-hmm. I've even seen pictures where dogs have, like, gotten their heads in those, and, of course, then they grow, and it's, like, seriously choking them. I just get so angry when I see stuff like that, and it's just a simple thing. As soon as you pull the cans out of there, just cut them up. That way, okay, it's still trash, but and doesn't break down very easily, but it's going to be potentially less of a hazard. Then they use the SAFE acronym, secure all falling equipment. Basically, we call that the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
You know, when you're wearing gear and you have everything known to man, you know, you've got your dive console and it's kind of just dangling. We wear retractors that keep them pulled, keep them close. For your alternate air source, I use the tube necklace for that, which I love, and it keeps it right there. Some people have them as clips that go on their D-ring, on their strap, but the idea is to keep it in that triangle area so it's easily accessible, but also so that it's not dragging around. I've been on so many dives, even in gorgeous places, where you see people cruising along. Their buoyancy control is actually pretty decent, but they keep forgetting that their console's dragging or their alternate air source is dragging, and it's like tearing up the coral.
Yeah.
And if you're out here at the lake, you could very easily, that becomes a little snare to snag on to cut fishing line and things like that. And suddenly you're like, why can't I move? So secure your gear. Secure your gear. Keep it all streamlined. You'll dive much easier. You'll be more streamlined, and you'll be less of a hazard to life around you.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, it goes back just like he mentioned earlier. I mean, as you're diving, you're gonna change. I was that same person that he mentioned earlier. Just, you know, everything and anything I could find just to strap onto my BC because I thought I needed it. I thought it looked good. And then you find out that as you go on, as your training advances, you start getting more. Yeah, you start getting streamlined. You start needing different things. You start putting it in different places.
Right.
One thing that I learned early on is to make sure that everything is tucked in nice and neat. You don't want to drag anything.
That's right.
To damage anything. You don't want to try to get snagged on anything. Especially here at the lake, there's fishing line everywhere. So that's just yeah.
Yep. Be aware when ordering seafood. Avoid seafood that's from an endangered species, because and by endangered, they actually have different categories where they don't stop fishing them, but they restrict the amount that you can that fishermen can acquire during a year, during a season. So where you can find out places that get most of their stuff from like fish farms and that kind of thing, where they grow them specifically for the restaurant industry. Because I like me some seafood.
I love seafood too, but I remember reading something about too much seafood could be hazardous because of the amount of mercury in the fish.
Well, you know what? Everything is going to kill you at some time. You know, God's not given me a spirit of fear, but a love, power, and a sound mind. So and I've been told that I can drink any poison or any safe thing, and nothing is going to hurt me. So,
there you go.
I'm not going to worry about it. But I do want to be. You know, we make sure that the tuna that we buy is dolphin safe and all. that stuff.
No, I was just reading something about that, but no, I'm not going to care. I love seafood.
Give me some good old shrimp or crab legs or even lobster.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame that my wife doesn't like seafood as much as I do. You know, I'll always tell her, well, when we're in San Antonio, let's go to Papa Do's. Let's go to Red Lobster.
Yeah.
And every now and then she'll entertain it, but usually it's
they have other stuff at Papa Do's though. Yeah, and they do, of course, at Red Lobster. But you know, Papa Do's, the virtue of Papa Do's is it's a Cajun restaurant, so there's other foods with that's Cajun.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily involve seafood.
If you really like, if you really like seafood, you want to go to Papa Do's, and if you're really into the Cajun, get the blackened catfish.
I gravitate towards the alligator tail.
The alligator tail?
Yep.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is pretty good.
Good stuff.
But a friend of mine was like, I want something hot and this and that. So I was like, go with the blackened.
There you go.
Or there was something else. It was extremely spicy. I can't remember what it was. But he got to sample some of it, and he goes, no, that's a little too hot.
A little spicy.
That's just a little bit.
Okay, environmentally friendly detergents. So especially if you're living in coastal areas, because that stuff enters into the water table.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only could it gradually affect you and your kin, but it also could affect the sea life.
Do you remember the time I dove and I had washed my wetsuit, but I didn't?
Oh, yes.
I was leaving all those bubbles.
Yes, you were a little foamy.
Yeah. The thing was, I washed my wetsuit, but I forgot to
hate it when that happens.
wring it out with just clean water because I soak my wetsuit in soapy in this tub that I have.
Yeah.
To really let it soak up, and then I take it out and then rinse it off. I didn't rinse it off, so it dried and it smelled great. But when we went diving,
minty fresh.
I was moving around and I was leaving a trail of bubbles. It
was pretty bad. Yeah, that just goes to show you clean your gear, but make sure it's thoroughly rinsed out so you don't introduce something unintentionally to the environment and become the butt of people's jokes.
Yeah,
later.
It was clean though.
Okay. Let's move on to a couple things here. Let's skip down to I can't remember if you were here for the episode I talked about Second Life where they had the scuba diving simulation.
Yes.
As part of it. Well, evidently, let me bring this up. Evidently, there is now a game. It's like a $10 game from infinitescuba.com. Let me bring this up. There we go. So, evidently, this is a fairly new thing where you can have simulated diving in different environments. Let me pull up some screenshots here. So it reminds me a lot of Second Life and how it looks. Very, very similar. You got your little dive light and everything there. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Penetrating caves and wrecks, things like that. But I haven't had time to, because I found out about this morning. But I think I may check this out, just see if there's like a demo. I mean, this is much more detailed looking than in Second Life.
Yeah.
I would just like to see how the motion is, if this is, but it looks like it's third person like Second Life, so you have an avatar that you're swimming around. I wonder if I can pick my own gear and make, I was reading something about that. They're kind of partnering with the different manufacturers.
Oh, wow.
So it may be that you could like outfit yourself with your actual gear, which would be cool. I would love to get an avatar with me and my own gear. But that's at infinitescuba.com. So if you're wanting to check out some, it's a game, but it also is an eco-friendly type game. So
cool.
Be just kind of something to thumb around on, especially if you have a tablet. You know, be convenient on a tablet, I guess. And it works on both the PC and a Mac.
Cool.
So for you Mac aficionados, I had to I spent way too much time dealing with one this weekend. We're getting ready to kick it out the door.
The one at your church?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still in great shape. It's got the big 27-inch screen, but it's not serving useful. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's not serving a useful purpose anymore. I was trying to apply some of my AFSO 20 or Lean Six Sigma tools to that as we revamped everything, and we got a lot of work done this weekend. But I was like, okay, so what do you do? What's your process that you use the Mac for? Well, from the cameras we record the services. Of course, we're moving into live streaming the service as well as recording it. So we'll be using the XSplit software. So I actually did a proof of concept last week, and so I'll be setting things up to do it again this week. But I said, well, if we do this, you won't need the Mac. It'll all be done live stream and recorded and immediately able to upload. Because on the Mac, when it gets done, when you say, okay, we're done capturing, it takes like hours to render the darn thing.
Right.
And then finally to upload it. I mean, they were taking upwards of a full day.
To render?
Yeah, to render and get it uploaded. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I said, we're ready to go right after our stream is done.
Yeah.
So I was asking him, what are you doing with the Mac? Well, okay, we get done with the service, we end the capture, and then we do some other stuff over here. I'm like, okay, but what do you do with the video that you just shot? Nothing. What? No, it's all just staying on the hard drive. Wait a minute, you're not burning it to DVD, you're not uploading it to Vimeo and YouTube. What? You're not doing it? No, it's just filling up the hard drive.
Wow.
Well, because the person who was there before, he was all about Mac, and so he was doing all this stuff with it. Well, now they're just kind of, the way we've always done it is, they're just been following the path.
Right.
I'm like, okay, this is serving no purpose if it's sitting here running, capturing the service, and you're not doing anything with it. It'd be like us doing the recording, including the recording piece to our podcast here, and then not uploading it.
Right.
So,
well, aside from that, but it also takes up space.
Yeah.
On the hard drive.
Yeah.
Eventually, video, especially an hour video, is going to consume a lot of space on that HD. So,
oh yeah.
You got to get it off.
Do something with it.
Yeah,
burn it off. Yeah, exactly. Burn it off and then delete it.
Delete it, and then just label the DVD, and you got it.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly. So, I had, in order to figure out how to do some things with it, I was like, oh God. So I have to sit down and wrestle through the mess that is OS 10. I hate it. I hate Macintosh.
Oh, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I hate it. You can't do. How do you create a stupid Word document or something equivalent? You got to go through all these iterations just to get a stupid document to print instruction. I wanted to take. They had handwritten instructions on the wall, taped to the wall. I'm like,
oh, really?
Oh, that's professional.
Yeah.
I said, what you need is a book, a binder that has all your guides, your little shortcuts, and all that stuff with it. So that if you're training somebody who's new,
right,
you can open up, here's the process, here's the standard work for doing this. No, it's all up on the wall, written.
Post-its.
So I'm sitting there like, good grief, how do I create a flippin' document? And then adding a printer was a nightmare.
What?
Adding a printer took me forever. I'm like, come on, it cannot be this difficult.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
Oh.
Because, it uses an airport. I'm like, no, it's Wi-Fi. And so I had to cross all these means because Apple can't name things an industry standard anything. So anyway,
the thing is, the industry can't catch up to Apple. That's
bull.
what it is.
That is so much bull. So anyway, I wasted 2 hours messing with a stupid Macintosh just to get it into a usable form before we can kick it out the door. So that just solidified my hatred. I was just...
Well, if you guys don't want it, I'll take it off y'all's hands.
I was in a church, so I had to be careful. I just had to resist every temptation to use expletives that I used to use freely when I was in the world. So anyway, on to other news. Another artificial reef has been added to Florida. A 110-foot tug called Pocahontas was sunk as an artificial reef and a memorial for a young man named Danny McCauley. So I think this is the first memorial reef. It's pretty cool. This young man was an avid free diver and spear fisherman who was unfortunately killed by a drunk driver.
Shame.
So I guess it was very well known, high school student.
Yeah.
I guess very well known in the area. But so there was a big push to get an artificial reef name for him. So they got this tug and they even put his name on it, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
So I love to see those kind of things. This is the kind of activism that I can really appreciate because it honors somebody who, by all accounts, was, I guess, very respectful of the environment as well as enjoying a very, very popular sport, a sport that has been in contention a long time down in Florida between the professional lobster catchers, lobster fishermen, and those who do scuba or free diving for lobster, because they keep shrinking the season that the free divers, the divers of any type, can go after them. So that it's basically been kowtowing to the lobster industry, as opposed to the sport. So, but anyway, so a new artificial reef there. So, and that's over at Palm Beach, I think.
Cool.
So that's neat. So that would be a drift dive, by the way.
Yeah.
Everything over there on the Atlantic coast, that's drift. That's drift diving, which is pretty cool. We did some drift diving at Boca Raton.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so on to let me get back over here. On to some video here. I went diving out at the Abyss.
The Abyss.
Which isn't so much the Abyss anymore, although I still didn't get to the bottom of it.
Really? How
We're
deep?
54 feet down, and I got down to 78 feet. And
was it chilly?
Yes, it was. Yes, 56 degrees. Yeah. But visibility wasn't as bad as it has been. It's starting to open up a little bit. Let me pull up some video here. Bring the audio down a little bit.
The thing is, the lake is down probably about what?
54 feet.
About 54 feet. And you went down 74 feet, and you still didn't hit the bottom.
No. See, visibility was about 15 feet.
Wow,
there were areas where there was definitely some silt hanging there, but it was generally about 15 feet, and I was like, okay, this isn't too bad. It was just very cold. I got a number of little videos I want to pull up here. I didn't have time once I got back to stitch them all together into one continuous one.
So what's the depth here?
This one is at 30 feet.
Are you cruising and does it just drop down? Or?
Yeah, if you look off to the right here, you see a couple of points where I look down and it starts to drop. I was like, oh, okay, I see a drop.
There it is.
It's much easier to get to this now that we can see so much of it above water.
Yeah. I remember that night when we first stumbled onto it.
Yep.
God, we're just cruising and we see stuff like that, just the ground.
Oh yeah.
And then we just come over this little cliff, and it's just straight black.
And there was I saw some little areas that we hadn't seen before.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. It was, and this is what I mean by it's never the same dive twice, because the lake is down so far. You get an opportunity to see different things than you're used to, and they look different because something that was at 70 feet before now is at 20 feet, and so the light is different. If you're diving during the day, the light's different, and so everything looks, it's like, wow, this just has a different aura to it. What's funny is you can hear me trying to wrestle the dive buoy line too. I saw only a couple of fish the entire time, which kind of surprised me. I was expecting to see a lot more, because water temperatures are coming up. Last time I was out there it was 50.
Yeah.
So now it's 56.
If the water stays, well, you just pretty much busted my bubble. It's going to drop probably maybe another 15 feet.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to do this dive when it gets a little warmer.
Yeah.
I
still want to get a boat and go out to
Castle?
Castle for sure, but also I want to dive on Goodenough Springs. I want to do that so bad now.
You just want to get to the opening?
Yeah, just get to the opening. So let me remove that one and bring up one of the other ones. Video. Hello. Grab the next one. This is at about 50 feet. You can see still dropping down more. And of course, as the light disappears, it becomes more green.
God, it's clear though.
It's not as bad as it has been. It's not as good as it's been either. But I was pleased. And the camera doesn't pick it up as well, but I could see certain things. I was like, oh, I gotta go check that out. It draws you. I was like, oh, there's a little cave. Ooh.
Now, if you're at 50 feet, this would already be at 100 feet of water. And
when the lake was up.
When the lake was up.
Exactly. So I'm like fumbling trying to get my little BC light on. Which is hard to manage the camera and the dive line. And then fumbling, and with the 5mm gloves on. I had my 5mm gloves. I was still wearing my 7mm suit, but I had the 5mm gloves on.
So who'd you go down with?
Just me.
Wow.
I had my spare air. Which reminds me, I need to buy. I want to swap out the little nipple pressure gauge. It's basically just a button that comes out flush when it's. There we go. Get the light on. I want to switch it. They actually make a actual gauge.
Oh, okay.
For it. I want to get that for it. I've just decided that I absolutely have to have that. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of these little pocket caves down there. I was hoping to find a big catfish in one of these. I was really looking. I was like, oh, there's got to be a cat hanging around one of these. Because normally that's what we see. I mean, look at this. This was a spectacular wall. Mm-hmm. Not quite on the line of Castle Canyon, but it was still pretty attractive. I think at this point I had my line was wrapped, was being stretched because it was pretty windy, so it was the line was up over the outcropping. So I was trying to back away enough to get that free because I want to try and have it slice off on me down there, like you see in the movies where the rope is rubbing on the rock.
Yeah, and all of a sudden the rope just drops.
At some point I did throw my gauge, a couple of times I threw my gauge up there.
That place is just awesome, and then diving in at night. I think.
But it's kind of neat to see some of the things you normally can't, during the day. So I can fast forward a little bit here. There we go. I kept looking off to the right and see I could go definitely further.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready to change it again. Let's add one more. See how big is that one? 25, 29. that I was doing. I won't do that one. That was my 15-minute or my 3-minute stop. Let me back up to the previous one. See, that was sending the ground. That one. Lots of good wall. Mm-hmm. Lots of good wall there. Look at that.
That. Right there. That's what I'm talking about, folks. That's what I like to see.
I thought you'd like that.
Because you know where I would be heading. I'd be going straight down. Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had a great time. You would have had a blast. I was kind of wishing I had worn my 7mm gloves because I was getting a little chilly.
Oh, okay.
Once I got out down to below 70 feet, yeah. I was starting to feel it.
Squeeze, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, and I told Tara that because since I was diving myself, I made a very thorough plan. I made sure I told her, okay, I'm going out. I will text you right before I get in the water and how long I intend to be down. You know, plan your dive your plan.
Right.
And having backup air, and then I'll come back up. I said that'll be the max. I may come up shorter, depends on how cold I get. So go down, and then I also had two different signal sausages.
Okay.
I had my normal orange one that I carry that just uses it says divers down, but I also have that yellow one that says emergency.
Right.
So that way, if something happens, I would send both up, and there were plenty of people fishing in the area.
Okay,
so
cool.
If they saw those go up along with the dive buoy, that would give people a signal that I was going to need assistance.
Yeah.
So, plus, since I happened to run into Jeff, and he knew where I was diving, I said, I'm going to be putting in over here. That's just additional safety.
Right.
So I was definitely covered, but you know, I'm very, very meticulous about making sure all of my gear is in good shape. Matter of fact, I ended up putting a new battery in just before I got in the water. So came up, texted her, yep, had it all done, safe and sound, had a great time. Man, I'm anxious for the weather to warm up so where I can start stripping down the suit to the back down to the 3mm shorty.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to don on and off. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah. And of course, you know, lugging as far down as that is, lugging all the gear up, wearing that 7mm suit. I was just like, les pas, les pieds, les pas, les pieds. So
it's awesome when you're in the water, but when you get out, it's rough.
Gosh. Luckily, there was, you know, because it was windy. Of course, it made it challenging to tow the dive buoy behind me. But it definitely made relaxing once I got on the surface pretty comfortable.
When we first discovered this, we told ourselves we got to come back. So we decided to come back during the day, and that's when we did our deepest dive.
Yeah.
When we went, the surface temperature was 100.
Yeah.
It was 100 and something. It was right in the middle of summer, and we had our 5mm on.
Yeah.
Because we knew we were going to go deep.
Right. And we got cold.
It was cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in the like mid 60s, I think, or low 60s.
Yep.
And this was right in the middle of summer, so it was cold. We were freezing. When we got to the surface, it was like
absolutely
nice and hot.
Oof. All right, so it's 9:15, so we're actually running behind schedule again, but not as bad as usual. Let's go ahead and jump into Administrivia.
The Administrivia.
Yes. Okay. Next dive club meeting is 18 April, just before sequester. Which, by the way, that got slipped because they passed a continuing resolution. Of course, we've not been on a budget for 4 years. We've been on continuing resolutions for 4 years. We were all set to have the little letters, the official letters, go out to all the employees saying, okay, official sequester time. starting 30 days from here is when we're going to do it. Well, evidently this CR funded things in such a way that they weren't entirely sure that we would have as many furlough days as we thought. So they held off on giving those out till they find out details. And I'm like, you know what? That was a stupid idea. They should have just gone ahead and sent them out so that if you get surprised and find out, oh, we only have to lose 20 days or whatever, then it's better to err to the benefit than. So now what happens if they delayed and they technically can't start the furlough until that 30-day window happens?
Right.
Okay, so if they are delaying now 4 days, let's say potentially, that means that's 4 days extra of time frame that we'd have to make up. And potentially we may end up losing. We still would have to, what if they say, well, it didn't change ultimately the way what we have to cut. We still have the 22 days of furlough they have to eat up, but we have to eat them up in a higher compressed area. So we may lose more than 2 days a pay period.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, that's just stupid. So anyway, 18 April is our next dive club meeting at Rudy's Restaurant, 7 p.m. And of course, we have our Balmoral State Park dive trip scheduled 17th to the 19th of May, the 14th to the 16th of June, 19th through the 21st of July, and the 16th through the 18th of August. And we do have our basic open water classes scheduled for 23 through the 26th of May, 27th through the 30th of June, 25th through the 28th of July, 22nd through the 25th of August, and the 26th through the 29th of September. And you can definitely follow us on our delriodiveclub.com. Check us out there. Or we're quite lively on Facebook.
Yes.
Some of us more than others. So check us out at Facebook/Del Rio Dive Club. Or you can send us messages or emails, etc. You can catch us via Skype, via Two Guys Who Dive, or send an email to tgwd@outlook.com. And Scuba Bob would love
to hear from you. Yeah, absolutely.
He's digitally lonely sometimes.
Yes.
So, he'd love to hear from you. So you can follow him on Twitter at rsgarza435 or send him an email at
please.
Yes, please. You can send forward the same one if you like.
Yeah, just keep
That's right. The more the merrier. That's right. Just keep hitting send. rsgarza821 at yahoo.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter at RobertCFP or send me an email at robert.wade@cityfox.net.
City Fox.
City Fox, as opposed to a country fox. That's right. Just as long as you get the fox right.
Yeah.
So now you have stuff coming up, right?
Yes. My calendar is going to be extremely challenging for the next this Saturday, the 30th, coming up.
Easter weekend.
Yes, I will not be here because I am getting confirmed.
Nice.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My biggest fear, though, and I know it shouldn't be, but I am going to be confessing on Monday. So got a lot to talk about. And then on the 13th, I will not be here because I will be out of town for a church thing that I have going on. But then after that, smooth sailing.
All right.
So,
awesome.
But yeah, it's just for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be really challenging for me. But well, not challenging. More. I've got things to do.
Right.
The Lord is calling me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yes.
And when he calls, you want to answer. You don't want to go, later for you.
No, I'm not going to tell him. I'll call him back.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, but no, I got a lot of things coming up this week.
Nice.
It's going to be interesting for a Catholic boy.
Yep. As we prepare for Easter weekend. So, I may see if I can get Troy to step in for maybe these next 2 weeks. That would be cool.
Yeah.
If I can get a hold of Nick. That'd be cool. He had a good time.
Nick would have a great time. Nick's a joy.
Yep.
I just want to say I don't know if I have. I know I got friends who watch the show, but I lost a good friend of mine yesterday in San Antonio. Worked with him. He was a police officer for the city, and he had apparently gotten that gastric bypass surgery done and had complications with it.
Oh.
And he lost the battle yesterday.
Wow.
Yesterday morning. I feel for his family.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out. His my friend's name is Rick Riojas. Rick, you will be missed. For his family, you know them. He had a son and his wife. It's gonna be, I'm sure it's being hard for them. So I just want to say, that if you're out there, please have their in your prayers for me, please.
Did he happen to be a believer?
He was.
Oh, see, upside about that is it's not goodbye, it's see you later.
Yeah.
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 So that's the cool thing is Scripture says death has lost its sting.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it's not a permanent hurt.
Right. But just a great person. I mean, a joy to be around.
San Antonio Police Force, huh?
No, here Del Rio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Del Rio. He was here with the city police.
Oh, okay.
So, but he used to work at the sheriff's office with me back in.
Now, was this a voluntary surgery, or was this they found something wrong, had to go in, kind of thing, or?
No, this was a voluntary thing. But he had it done some time back.
Oh, okay.
So this wasn't something that happened. He just had the surgery and then got sick. No, that's not. From my understanding, that's not what happened. But he had gotten sick, and it was from what I've been told is that it was a result of the surgery that he did receive. So just
that's a shame.
Yeah,
when it all starts from a voluntary thing, a lot of people do things that are even more cosmetic. A lot of people will get all sorts of plastic surgery stuff, and there go the dogs howling. Yeah. And unfortunately, they have complications from that, and that's what's even more tragic when you do something that's not when you volunteer for some sort of surgery or something that's not a life or death thing. It's like the doctor saying you need to do this, and then there's complications from it. It almost would be easier to take or swallow if this is one of those cases where we need to go in and there's a chance that something could happen. But,
right, and
it's sad.
I just happened to today. I was my wife was away at a religious retreat for the whole day, and I was with my two boys earlier when you called me to go diving, and I couldn't go. Yeah. We went to the New Gaddy's land. I took them now.
How is that?
It's awesome. It's great for kids.
I saw tons of vehicles parked everywhere.
Yes.
They don't have parking?
They have parking. It's just so full.
Wow.
So there's the place is huge. So in other words, if they just parked in the parking area, the place pretty much would be empty. So all the cars that are on the outside is barely filling up the whole establishment. I mean, it's roomy. It's really big. But so I ran into a friend of mine, and he's also worked with me in the law enforcement aspect of it. And I believe he's a reserve deputy still at the sheriff's office. And he just told, and I asked him, I go, did you hear about Rick? And he was like, of course, yeah. Sad thing. He goes, and you know what's scary is that, and he said in a couple of weeks he was going to be going to get that same surgery.
Gonna think twice, huh?
Well, and I looked at him and I go, you're not extremely large, you know? But when I looked down, he had his plate of pizza and he had it stacked. And I go, look, I got your solution. Yeah. Is portions. Cut that about half. Yeah. Eat a salad, drink some water, and just do a little bit of walking every day or every other day. You don't need that surgery. Yeah. That's all it is. It's just self-control, which is what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, that is a tough thing.
It is. But when you hear all these horror stories about people getting sick from these surgeries, I know that they're there for a reason. There are some people that really need it because of heart issues and everything else. They're just, overly obese, excuse the word, but that's what it is. Yeah. They really need it for health reasons. Yeah. Then if you're being told by a doctor, you got to do it. Right. Then do it. But just because you want to shed, 30 pounds and you want to do it the easy way.
Do it the safer way.
Yeah. Just
do it the safer way.
Start exercising, cut back on change your diet, and
You get one shot. You know, Shirley MacLaine has got it wrong. You get one shot at this. So do it the safest way. Do it the right way. It's just not worth it to take the chances that to get a quick fix only to find that it potentially shortens your life.
Right.
You know, I'd rather go through life looking a little bit heavy than and have the length of my life be what it's supposed to be than to take a chance and cut it short.
Mm-hmm.
So because I like to enjoy diving too much.
Yeah, you know.
I don't want to do anything that's going to cut my diving short. That's
there you go.
It's as simple as that.
But anyway.
All right. Well, I know it's going to be an exciting week for you and an exciting weekend.
Yes.
If there's anything I can do during the week, get you ready, by all means, you just let me know. I'm a text away.
I will.
And so definitely going to miss you over the next 2 weekends. But it's not like we're not going to see each other.
Well, yeah. Well, this weekend I won't be there, but then I'll be here the following weekend. And then the weekend after that. Yeah, and then after that, we'll be here.
Yep. So, and we always love to have you guys here.
Yes.
We'd love to have you interact with us in the chat room. Love to hear your comments, suggestions, complaints even, although we'll probably ignore those. But, and then, of course, if you watch us on YouTube, we love to hear your comments there. And so until next week, we're done, and we will see you on the next episode of
Two Guys Who Dive. Good night.
See ya.